authors want to sell more books. But it's hard if you're not visible. We can help. Claim your instant access to the 10 tips for free book promos from the Bold Authors Network at fictionwriterspodcast.com/boldauthors now. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
Writing can be a lonely business, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Lana McAra. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast. Tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to our podcast, Karen Nelson. Karen is the author of The Sunken Town and the co-founder of the nonprofit Writing by Writers. During her long career in nonprofits, she has protected open space, funded cancer research, trained people to complete endurance events, and helped writers bring their work into the world. When not organizing writing workshops, she can be found hiking with her dog, reading, traveling, experimenting in the kitchen. You got me, I'm on your side there, Karen, and hosting dinner parties. She writes for various publications and is also working on her next novel. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much.
I'm excited to talk to you today because this is a new topic for me, and I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. Where are you located?
I am in the Silicon Valley, so Los Altos, California.
Okay. Yeah, great. Is it good weather there or is it cold?
It is not cold, overcast. We've been having some much needed rain, so that's always a good thing.
Okay, awesome. You never know, with California being so long, you know.
Exactly. It can be anything. As long as it's not on fire, we're happy. So
we're definitely on the same page there. Yeah, for sure. So how did you get started with fiction?
Well, let's see. I have always been a reader and always been a writer. So I can say that I have a little book on my shelf here that was called The Popcorn Popper That Wouldn't Stop Popping, because I felt the need to write about anything around me as early as I could. So I have always been drawn to fiction. It's primarily what I read. It's certainly what I write. And I find that even though it is fiction, that it's in some ways easier for me to have more emotional truth in it than it would be if I were to attempt to write about my life, which frankly I don't find very interesting. I haven't explored the Yukon or had some terrible trauma, and so it's for me the world of fiction is much more engaging. It's something I escaped into as a child, and so love to escape into as a writer as well.
Yes, we are tracking together there because I was Pippi Longstocking was my favorite. She did everything backwards. She slept with her feet on the pillow.
Yes, she did. I have all those books.
I just loved her. She was my very favorite. So yes, all the way back then to the Pippi Longstocking days. Yes. So tell us a little bit about your publishing journey. What track did you take? And we talk about 3 different kinds of publishing here: self-publishing, hybrid, and traditional. So which one did you choose?
I ended up going with traditional, which for me was because I work adjacent to the publishing industry. For me, that was the bar I wanted to set. I think that all 3 versions of publishing are wonderful for different types of people and different types of books. And for many years, it was not important to me to publish at all. It was just writing was how I processed the world. It was what I loved to do. I took classes. I had a writing group. But really, I have to say it was a couple things kind of came at the same time. One of my peers, her book, actually all 3 of her books were published. And I really saw that, her goal from the get-go had been to publish. And so I saw the lengths that she went to and how she went about it and felt that, okay, if she can do this, I can do it. At the start of the pandemic, one of my friends who had been in my writing group called and said, I have no job and I live alone and I need to write a new book. So why don't we get the group back together? And so we did. We restarted that book group or the writing group over Zoom. And I had 2 novels in the drawer at that point. And I thought, okay, well, I'll start something new. And I started why am I starting something new when I have these 2 projects that I really could finish? And so I had taken the Sunken Town out of the drawer at that point and really decided, okay, I'm going to make a commitment to finishing this. I also was talking to a fellow writer, Melissa Phoebos, who gave me this great analogy just at the perfect time. She said that her grad school professor had told everyone in the class they were all worthy of being published, but really it was who stuck with it the longest. And she used the analogy of the last hand on the hard body, which is that contest where everyone puts their hand on a car, and whoever hand is left on the car longest wins the car, and they put on diapers and they do all sorts of crazy things. And so all those 3 things just sort of converged, and I decided that it was time to try to get this out in the world. And I did 2 things. I started looking at agents, but I also started looking at small presses because I just fully believe in the power of the small press. And I've had so many friends that have been very excited and pleased with their success there. And I found this wonderful press called Sibylline that focuses on women over the age of 50. And I am over 50 and fit that quality. So I sent it to them and they accepted it. And so it was really wonderful. It feels like forever, but it took about 4 years of really concentrated effort of agents and small presses and sending out and making sure the manuscript was ready from when I made the decision to when I was able to hold the book in my hands, which was very exciting.
Wow. Do you have a copy of it there?
I do, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, that's a beautiful cover.
It is. And we have a really wonderful artist that does all the covers.
Yeah, that's great. It took me 14 years to get my first book published. So I have a lot of heart for aspiring novelists and the uphill battle that it seems like it is, sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's definitely an uphill battle. And I think there's, so many people that would love to be published and who have work that is worthy of it. And it's just difficult to get through the process. So any way that people can do that, I totally support.
Yes. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is community.
Yes.
And how important it is to, as a writer, get into it. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. I know, for me, writing, obviously, like everyone, it's a very solitary process, but there is absolutely no way I would have stuck with this the way that I did without having a really strong writing group and a strong writing community behind me and people who were there to encourage me at the time that I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? It just made all the difference for me. And then it on the other side, it makes a lot of difference once you are published. You do, having been a good literary citizen and been in the literary world, it opened doors and helped me get through things that I maybe didn't expect in a way that they would. So that's been really helpful too.
Absolutely. When you get your first bad review.
Yes. That one I'll just probably go to the dog with, but
Yes, for sure. Because haven't we all?
Oh, yeah.
All. Yes. So what brought you into the world of building literary communities?
Well, so my partner, Pam Houston, who is a writer as well, she and I founded a nonprofit almost 13 years ago at this point called Writing by Writers. And we did that because she still is teaching at the University of California at Davis. And a while ago, she was the head of the department. And they had asked her what she wanted to do if they gave her a bunch of money. And she said, well, I would start a writing workshop because she was someone whose work was discovered at a writing workshop. She had been in a PhD program and is very open about the fact that they did not love her work there. And then she went out to a workshop called Writers at Work, I think it was at the time, and she was discovered, and that's what launched her career. So she felt like she wanted to give this experience to her her grad students so they could understand what writing was like out in the real world and once you got outside of academia. So she did that for several years with Davis. And then Davis decided it was losing funding and couldn't do it and decided to pull out. And she and I had been friends for years, and I had been working in nonprofits for years. And I was actually in her private writing group at the time, and we just happened to be out. It was in the Tamales Bay workshops. It was hosted in Point Reyes, California. We happened to be out there for the weekend with on the beach for a dog walk vacation, and we ran into the people who own the bookstore, and they said, why don't you come over for dinner and we can talk about how we can keep this going. And so we did that. And by the time that dinner was over, I said, I think that this is absolutely something we can do. There's a need for it. The community wants it. And I think, honestly, it's bigger than just what this community is here, that we can do so much more. So I applied for our 501c3 and we got the nonprofit designation, and we took 1 year off, and then we restarted as our nonprofit Writing by Writers, where we put on workshops for all levels of writer and all different types of manuscript lengths. And we've been doing that now very successfully for almost 13 years. It's crazy how fast the time has gone.
Wow, that is amazing. I just love what you're saying here because you took action.
We did. Absolutely. People used to joke that the two of us could run a multi-million-dollar organization because she can talk people into things and I just do everything else. And we say, that's how it works. She talks people into it and I just do all the operations and behind the scenes. It works out great. And we've just been super fortunate. We, the faculty we have are award-winning, National Book Award, Pulitzer Prize winning, very accomplished faculty that, a normal writer who wasn't in an MFA program may not have the opportunity to get to study with them. And so this is giving people an opportunity to get in contact with these nationally known writers and learn not only how to write, but how to be a reader and how to read like a writer, which I think is another important aspect of the whole thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a very good partnership there.
Yes.
Yes. So what is a trusted reader?
A trusted reader. So we often say at our workshop, we want you to leave with 2 trusted readers, or at least one. And that is someone that is going to tell you the truth and whose work resonates with you. So, yes, your husband or your partner or your child or your mother can read your work, or your best friend. But I think in some ways, if they're not a writer, or if they don't know how to put it into words, or you already have a different type of relationship, you don't hear it the same way, or they'll just say, oh, it's great, dear, just keep going. It's so wonderful. Whereas I think what we find in our workshops, because they're bringing people together from all different walks of life over a common goal of writing, that we will find that people who have work that resonates with each other and that the feedback they give is really great. And you have to weed through it. There are people that they give you feedback and you think, well, is that right? And then, you hear from three or four people and you're like, no, that isn't right. It doesn't resonate with me. But all these people are saying the same thing. So that's important to take into. So finding those people that who get your work and understand what you're trying to do, and don't try to take over and say, well, this is what I think the book should be about, but really honor what you are trying to accomplish. That to me is what a trusted reader is. So someone you can say, look, ignore my commas and my punctuation. Like right now, I'm just trying to see if I've got the right framework. Or, you don't want to be, for me, I don't ever want to be too prescriptive because I think then you miss out on some wonderful learnings. But if you're at a stage where you're like, I just need to know if this plot line is even working, you want to have someone that can read at that level and not say, well, you really are splitting your minutes too much and that kind of reading. So it's been really helpful to have these trusted readers.
Absolutely. Someone who speaks your language.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And understands the nuances of fiction.
Exactly.
Not just grammar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been incredibly helpful to me as having a trusted reader. And I think finding those readers, that it's hard, but I think it's important. And, I think there's a number of ways to do it. And for me, it's always been through taking classes. And whether when I first graduated from college, I moved to Boston, I didn't know anyone. It happened to be near Harvard. And so I said, oh, do they have community classes? Well, they did. So I signed up for a creative writing class, and I met a couple people. And then I met a couple people who said, oh, I take classes from this other accomplished writer and she does it in her home. Maybe you want to do that. And I feel like most writers or many writers are introverts. And so reaching out and maybe having coffee or connecting with someone that maybe doesn't look on the outside like someone they would normally connect with can be hard. But I found putting yourself out there really is helpful. And just saying, hey, can we get coffee? Or, hey, would you be willing to exchange work? And start at that level and then go from there. In this day and age, there's so many online classes. I think it's easier to do. There's so many things you can do in your own community, or you can come to a writing workshop like we offer, or many other organizations offer, where you're getting people who have the same level of commitment to the piece. One of the things we offer is a full manuscript workshop. So it is 5 people and 1 faculty member reviewing your full manuscript. And there's a couple places that do this, but not a whole lot. And so the opportunity to have an award-winning writer plus 4 of your peers be able to read your full manuscript and get feedback on that, I think is just absolutely invaluable. And so that, for me, is part of having that community and building it. And then those are people who can, stick with you. I love that workshop the most because you see people come in and they've already read 80,000 words of each other and they're hugging, oh my goodness, it's you and you did this and and before the workshop has even started. So it's been just great.
Yes, absolutely. There'd be so much intimacy in being that deep into each other's work.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. When I moved to Florida, I had no idea there was so many writers groups here.
Yeah.
You throw a stone, there's a writer.
It's wonderful that so many people still want to read and write, I love it. I love that it's still such a big thing. I keep saying it's going to go away, but it is not.
Yes, we need each other. We need each other in so many ways. We need each other for insight into the manuscript where we're not seeing what we're not seeing, can't see the forest for the trees, but we also need each other when we have those moments, we're discouraged or something happened that brought us down. We need encouragement.
Absolutely.
That way.
Yeah. And people that understand, when you're at the dinner party and everyone says, well, why haven't you published your book yet? Either some people want to just crawl under the table. Some people want to launch themselves and choke the person and say, you don't understand how hard it is. So, it's wonderful to have those peers that just know. They just know. And they understand you've been staring at your cursor for 3 hours and then suddenly you find the right word. And that's just amazing.
Yes. So what I'm just reflecting to you now is that you have different levels of workshops.
We do. So what we have is we have 2-hour craft workshops or things that are online where people can just come, they sign up. Maybe it's about character, maybe it's about dialogue. We have all sorts of a whole litany of them. And that's just to really get a good craft, element of craft that you might want to be working on. And then we do both online and in person. And then so we do some more traditional workshops, which would be a class of 12, 5,000 word manuscript, whether it's fiction or memoir. Poetry is not the same number of words, but poetry workshop. So a workshop that's really focused on getting critique and you're bringing it in. And then we do this full book length manuscript, and both the book length manuscript and the in-person workshops, you had to apply and be accepted. We do have some advanced level, we do have some more beginning level, so that you can try to be put into the right cohort. Although sometimes the most advanced writers want to bring very unpolished work, and so it doesn't matter what the level of the work is. It's more about sort of the level of critique that you're going to be getting. And then we also have this wonderful project that we started gosh, I think back in like 2018 or 2019, that's called Draft. And we're about to start recruiting again. It's a 2-year program. It's a book building project. So it's for people who want to write a novel, memoir, collection of essays, short story collections, kind of guided with their peers. So it's almost like getting an MFA without an MFA program. So it's 2 years, it's like a low residency. It's 2 years. We meet for a long weekend every 6 months. And the first time they bring in essentially 20,000 words, and then it's 40,000, and then 60,000 and 80,000. So by the time they're done with the project, they have and hopefully a book-length manuscript complete. Now, some people do this as a rewrite of a book that they've already done, so they are really polished at the end. Others, we're just getting them to have a very first solid draft, and that is incredibly important too. So it's been just this wonderful program. We take 15 people, and we have 3 faculty members, and they work in small groups, and they work through all 3 faculty members, and then the last session they do it with the repeat, whichever faculty member they resonated with them the most. So, and that is another amazing community. And that we always say, I mean, they're still together. Like our first group are still together. And I get the emails, and they share all their successes and also all their struggles. But it's so fun to see, oh my goodness, this article I wrote 20 years ago that you all read as part of the collection just got picked up by, whatever journal. And so to have those people that have been your cheerleader all along, I think, is also important too with the community.
Definitely. On these, in these meetings, once every 6 months, are people actually writing? Is it like a writing weekend, or is it only?
It's more of a critique weekend. So yeah, so they've all exchanged it ahead of time. They've all read each other's volume of words, and they are critiquing. And then we have a faculty panel, and we do readings and fun things like that. But really the focus is to help people with this work. And when we're not in person, once a month, we call them office hours. We all just get on Zoom and talk about what's working or what's not, and ask for help or advice or support or cheerleading or whatever is needed. And then they also do a book chat. So they read a book from the perspective of a writer and break it down and see how what they've learned can be applied to maybe their manuscript or just their reading life in general. So it's made for someone who has a job and a family and 5,000 other commitments, and we record things on Zoom. So if they have to watch it after the fact, they can, but to be able to then get that concentrated time with their peers in the community workshop, it just, it's, again, you just see, I mean, we came back one night to the house we were all sharing, and there was this big dance party going on because they were having fun. So they bond in all sorts of ways, and then go on to support each other as they are getting published or not getting published. So
yes, and to bring this to our listeners, I would encourage everyone, do a Google search, find out what's going on around you. So you might be surprised.
Yeah, you would. And we take people from everywhere. We're called Writing by Writers, and it's a nonprofit, and it's writingbywriters.org.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you are receiving training from these award-winning writers, what would you say would be a couple of pointers that you've received from them that maybe was something eye-opening for you?
That's great. It is one of it's benefits of my job. I feel like I've gotten an MFA 5,000 times over because I get to hear all these people talk about craft. And, there's a lot. You can learn a lot. But I would say there's some certain commonality that has come out of it. And the first would be that there's no absolute rules or formulas with how you should write. Anytime someone says, well, you can't do it that way, you can find 5 examples of Pulitzer Prize winning books that break that rule. So I think the rules are good when you're getting started, but don't listen to someone that says you can't do it that way, because if you just can't, you just have to do it well. So that would be the first. I would say that from all of them, make sure you're a reader, not just a writer, but writers need to read, and they need to read widely and to read with their writer hat on, which I have to put on and off because it's not I love to read just to escape, as I said. And so I need to actually put my writer hat on when I'm reading through some of these really accomplished works to understand. So I think I've really learned that from them. I've also learned to trust your reader. that you don't over explain, don't spend so much time, just trust your reader. That they're gonna get there, my little thumbs up, they're gonna get what you want. I talk with my hands and my screen catches my
That was appropriate, though.
it was. And I think the couple of things I've learned, it's, right where the energy is, to learn how to get yourself into that chair and to write what you need to know about. It doesn't matter if you outline or you're one of those people that just sits down and goes, but I think that what I've learned from them is you need to write about what you can't get out of your head, what you're trying to explore yourself. And because there's a reason those things are resonating with you. And that emotional currency, I think, comes out in the work, and you see it on the page, and you see it when it comes to life in the writer's hands. And then I would also say, I've learned so much from them about, people think if you write in generalities that it's more, everyone will understand. But really, the more specific that you are with detail, the more general in some ways your piece can be, the more relatable, the more you can trust your reader. So I would say that's sort of the broad sweep of the really interesting things that have come out of, learning, like hearing them, not just about character or plot or dialogue, but more of the broad sweeping ideas.
Those are all terrific. I teach those in my own classes. I'm not every one of those. So if you're listening today, take a little notes. Go back and get some notes, because those were great. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about where you are in your writing journey. You're writing another book now.
I am. I'm very fortunate. One of the things that the Sibylline Press found out when they started publishing women over the age of 50 is that several of us have more than one book. And so they were asked me if I had anything else. And so I'm very excited that they have taken my second novel that I had also, after this one came out of the drawer during the pandemic, the next one came out, and I spent a lot of time rewriting it and felt that it was at a point. And so I'm thrilled. That will be coming out in July of 2026. But then now is the time. I need to sit down. I have about 20,000 words into a new book, which I am finding every excuse not to do. I mean, the holidays are great, and fortunately, I've got this new book out, so I can pretend posting pictures on Instagram is more important. But it is time for me to get back at it and sit down after the holidays and start pounding out those words. And that's where my writing group comes in handy. We're still going. Obviously the pandemic is over, but we have this wonderful group. Each week we get a little email that says, "What's your writing goal?" And we all write a little writing goal. And at the end of the week, I get a little email that says, "Did you complete it?" And I report in, and we cheer for each other. And then every 2 weeks we get on Zoom and talk about what's working or what's not, or where we are, or if we haven't been able to write, we talk about our lives or what books we're reading. And it's just a wonderful connection. And it's what really keeps me going to get all this done. So.
Yes, this is great. So tell us how we can get more.
Well, if you are interested in our organization, we are at writingxwriters.org, which is writingbywriters.org. But there's also a lot of wonderful organizations out there. We are certainly not the only one. I think that there are many online courses that you can take, and I would just, I would say, take from reputable sources. There's anyone can teach you a writing class, but I think that there are some ones that are better known, and I would say there's a reason for that they're good. So
yes, and the atmosphere, the culture of the groups is so important.
So important. That's one of the things we really strive for at our nonprofit is we say it's compassionate critique. So it is, a compassionate yet rigorous and inclusive environment to learn the art of reading and writing. And I think that's really important because you hear some of these workshops or MFA programs or whatever that people go to, there's a hierarchy. The faculty is up here and you don't talk to them, and, oh my God, who sat at what table. But for us, it's just so important to to hire people who not only are great writers, but are also great teachers and great members of this literary community who want to share their knowledge, who want to sit at the breakfast table and debate the merits of, first person or second person, but also whether, daylight savings time should be abolished. I mean, you get into, one of our faculty said that the one thing he missed the most during the pandemic was having those awkward conversations over meals during writers' workshops. But it's true, having that community and being able to come together with like-minded individuals is really, it just keeps you going. So I think it's important.
Absolutely. Karen, thank you so much. This has been a great
you.
conversation. Thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us. This is Lana McAra. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.